They're wankers! All squirrels are wankers! Just before we get started, let me tell you about today's fantastic sponsor, Vessi, who is genuinely one of my favorite sponsors. Vessi started sponsoring me, it's got to be like a couple of years ago now, and I used to wear like different shoes. Like I'd wear like, I don't know, leather shoes, boots, sneakers, sandals, boat shoes, whatever. And now I do not. I just wear Vessis. It has been just 2 years of wearing Vessis and nothing else. They sent me one pair at the beginning, which I loved, and I basically never took off. And now they've sent me a bunch more pairs. I have these slip-ons here. These ones I keep nice and clean to show on camera. I've actually never worn these, even though I very much want to. I'm wearing another pair of Vessis right now. These are the ones I'm actually like wearing around and about. Ugh. You can see that, and this is like their Chelsea boot style shoe, and I think this thing is fantastic. It's like moving in, it's like October, so it's like, for some reason I've got spring in here, but I'm like, these are just definitely old copy points. But we're adjusting for autumn, Vessi, and I've been wearing these for autumn. I went out at the time of recording last weekend, and I was just walking in the forest, and I hadn't planned to. Like, everyone else in my family is wearing like boots, and I'm just rocking these, just looking totally normal. And I would make up a story about how my wife was like, are you going to go through the rivers in those? Your feet are getting wet. But no, she knows my passion for Vessis. So she knows that they're waterproof, even though they don't look it at all. And they're breathable, so your feet don't get sweaty or any of that nonsense. And I am just storming through. It's like we're walking in the forest, and these little streams that run across, and these little bridges. And I'm just like walking through, and the water's like up to here. And you'll see it in this B-roll that I shot. I actually didn't intend to do that. It was just like, this is an amazing chance. I'm just going to film this. And yeah, these things are legit. They keep my feet warm. They keep your feet cool in the summer. I've actually not worn these in the summer, but I've worn their other shoes in the summer. And despite the fact that they're fully waterproof, they are breathable because of something called Dymatex. Woo! Comfortable, lightweight, breathable. I said that. Discuss my personal use. I've done that. Tell your audience about your experiences. Look, I have worn nothing else for 2 years. I wore Vessis to a funeral because I forgot my smart shoes. But look, if it was socially acceptable, I would have worn my Vessis to the funeral. And I did, because I forgot my shoes. Look, I'd wear my Vessis everywhere, and I do. That is the strongest recommendation I can come up with. Genuinely a brilliant product. Check them out through the link below, and you can use my code BRAINBLAZE for $25 off each pair of adult Vessi shoes. Free shipping to Canada, US, Australia, New Zealand. So these are fantastic. Just go get yourself a pair. Get that $25 off. Use my code. Show the love. Thank you very much. Now today's show. Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Brain Blaze. As always, I'm your host Simon. Welcome. I'm here. Danny writes me a script. I'm going to read it. Sam's going to edit it. This is Bad Decisions that came back to bite. The first entry is called Flood of Gay Tears. Jumping right into it, are we, Danny? No introduction. I mean, I know, Danny. I've had a go at you. I've been like, Danny, look, why are the introductions so long? But I mean, did I might have actually said no introductions, which kind of would make sense. That feels like something I would do. Anyway, let's just jump in.
You have a poison in your mind.
One of the reasons why natural disasters can be so frustrating is that it can be tricky to pin blame on the perpetrator and claim compensation. Is that frustrating? I mean, it's like, it's God, isn't it? We all know the answer. And so we must take God to court and just be done with it. He's very rich. He's like in deep pockets. And by God, I mean the church. If we're being rational for a second, I think we could try blaming the whole of mankind on the grounds that most so-called natural disasters are actually caused by historic and current human actions. What? Danny, have you smoked crack before starting today's episode?
Exactly. Yes, I have smoked crack cocaine.
It was like, yeah, no, most natural disasters are caused by human actions. 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. Yeah, no. The movements of the tectonic plates grinding away under there causing massive tsunamis. Previous human actions. Danny, did you smoke the crack? What's going on? But that could lead to a very busy courtroom. A lot of people just find it easier to blame God. The only issue is that God has a lousy track record when it comes to responding to lawsuits. God doesn't get a bad deal, really. He gets all the credit for all the good stuff, but is held unaccountable for all the bad stuff. In that sense, God must have a faint inkling of how Donald Trump feels at one of his rallies. I think, like, with the blaming God and it's like, no one, like, people who are like, oh, you know, God hates me or whatever, just don't believe in it. It's like, my life has been I don't think those people believe in, do they? Do people really blame God? I'm kind of like, I don't think God should get any credit, but I also don't think he should get any blame because he's not real. Is he?
No! 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 No!
Even some of the most devoted Christian groups are happy to blame God for natural disasters, but it's perfectly acceptable because mankind had it coming, so it's sort of our own fault, really, for making me angry. Wait, is that what you were trying to get at, Danny? That's the reason natural disasters are our fault, because we upset God somehow by... I don't know, what? It's always people on the right, it's like... Why, there was that big disaster. God rained smite down on us in the Indian Ocean because of homosexuality. It's like, okay. Oh, I see. This entry's called Gay Tears. This is what this is going to be about, isn't it? Oh, no. You see, natural disasters are purposefully acts of punishment from a deity venting his violent disapproval on LGBT rights, abortions, arse coveting, and anything else that extreme religious nutters do not agree with. Now, it'd be quite ironic if an American politician, Bible basher, and rampant anti-gay lobbyist ever publicly declared that floods were God's revenge on the US for legalizing same-sex marriage, only to see his own house get washed away in a flood the following year. Wait. I was going to say, turns out, no, there's photographs of him at huge gay orgies, which I feel like anyone who's like super anti-gay and is like, then the God will smite you and turn you into a demon. It's always like, you're gay, aren't you? You've just got that like deep self-loathing because your parents you up. I feel like it's always those people who come out. It's like, no, they had 17 gay, what's it called when you have an affair? Not mistresses. What's the masters? what's the male equivalent of a mistress? A bit on the side. Look, this dude's always got 16 men on the side and it comes out in something and it's like, oh, so you're going to turn into a demon or what?
I am not gay. I have relationships with women and sex with men.
Hold on.
And in the case of an American politician, Bible basher, and rampant anti-gay lobbyist Tony Perkins, his supporters would argue that this definitely did not happen. Wait, did his house get washed away or it didn't? That is a black and white issue. To be fair, the words never left his mouth in that exact form. Perkins was the president of the extreme Christian group Family Research Council. And Family Research Council sounds like the least extreme group. You'd see that, you'd be at your church, there's a little, activities like Bridge for over 70s, Family Research Council. And then you look deeper into Family Research Council and you just go to that room and there's just a dude screaming about demons in there. And then after that, he goes to his giant gay sex orgy.
You what?
And hosted a show on the council's radio show. During one broadcast in 2015, Perkins interviewed Messianic Jewish pastor Jonathan Kahn, who suggested the natural disasters such as Hurricane Joaquin, which I always thought was pronounced Joaquin, until I heard about that. There's that Joaquin Phoenix, whose name I thought for the longest time was Joaquin, or Joaquin Phoenix, and it turned out that was wrong. Which had literally just ripped through the Bahamas and claimed 34 lives, were a sign of God's wrath over the US legalizing same-sex marriage. Whereas any credible interviewer would have questioned the pastor's twisted logic, Perkins was happy to concede that God did indeed appear to be trying to send us a message. Clearly, you can't even send a WhatsApp message from the kingdom of heaven, so it has to be hurricanes every time. In case you think Perkins might just have been trying to be polite to his deranged guest, it's worth checking out his own track record on LGBT rights. Didn't we say that he was aggressively against this stuff? Aggressively? Over the years, he's urged gay people to seek conversion therapy because that works, claims that pedophilia and homosexuality are intrinsically linked. Well, yeah, they're linked in the way that they're things you disagree with, but only one of those is okay to disagree with. And it's the first one. I was just double checking there, otherwise that would play out badly.
In a stunning turn of events, a superhero is being sued.
Alleged that gay parents are providing distorted values to innocent children, compared homosexuality to drug addiction, and declared that the homosexual community is engaged in behavior which is destined to destroy the nation. The Family Research Council also clearly approved of Uganda's somewhat controversial Kill the Gays bill. Fucking hell. The family... Just let me read that again, just for some clarification there.
It's rewind time.
The Family Research Council clearly approved of Uganda's somewhat controversial Kill the Gays bill proposed in 2009. There is so much going on in that sentence, Danny. I can't even. Clearly approved of, somewhat controversial, Kill the Gay... Good Lord. Noting that it was an effort to uphold moral conduct, Perkins later backtracked on this, claiming that he only opposed gay and lesbian universal rights. Oh, just that. What rights exactly do you oppose? Forget all of them. You knob. So, not everyone would have shed too many tears for Perkins in 2016 when he was shot 400... Nah, unfortunately his house... Unfortunately, his house was just washed away by a natural disaster and he wasn't shot. I'm just kidding. Long live him. Also just kidding. Am I? I don't know. Obviously, I'm not wishing death on him because that would get me, punished on YouTube. I genuinely don't wish death on him. I don't wish death on anybody, I think. Just a year after agreeing the natural disasters were a vengeful message from God, his own Louisiana home was destroyed in massive flood of biblical proportions, forcing his family to make a dramatic escape by canoe and live in a camper for the following 6 months. Funnily enough, Perkins was convinced that this particular flood had nothing to do with wrathful vengeance. In fact, he sounded quite cheerful about the whole thing. He considered the flood to be an incredible, encouraging spiritual experience to take you to the next level in your walk with an almighty and gracious God who does all things well. I wonder if the other victims in the 2016 Louisiana flood would concur with those optimistic sentiments. At least 13 lives were lost. Well, wouldn't, would they? Over 40,000 homes were destroyed, and not everyone would have had the same level of wealth as Perkins to just rebuild their lives from scratch. Well, he wasn't that rich, was he? He had to live in a camper van for 6 months. I'm not like crazy rich, but if my house was washed away, I'd live in a hotel. I wouldn't live in a camper van. I'm not a peasant. Just kidding. Just joking. Or am I? No, I am.
I don't know. Notice me, senpai. I don't know.
Still, at least this was a positive and encouraging flood from God rather than one of those anti-gay temper tantrums. The sound of music. The lawmakers of West Virginia wanted to make it clear that nobody tells them what they can and can't put in their own mouths. Whether it's bleach or lighter fluid or parsnip juice, West Virginia feels that consuming your own choice of poison should never be considered a crime. Just based on the last one. Unless you're a man and that is cock. Raw milk is a bit controversial though. In 2016, it was still technically illegal to drink the stuff in West Virginia, while some argue that unpasteurized milk comes packaged with health benefits such as healthier gut flora and a decreased risk of cancer. The Center for Disease Control warns that raw milk can contain dangerous bacteria and parasites which lead directly to thousands of illnesses and a couple of deaths over the years. I'm going to go ahead as a CDC, fairly big organization, fairly filled with scientists. I'm going to guess that that's accurate. Don't drink raw milk. I mean, unless you're sucking off a cow or something, I guess you do you. But I ain't doing that. I think raw milk's not allowed in the UK either. And I feel like the UK's generally quite sensible to this. We're not oh yeah, we'll create a food pyramid and we'll put sweets at the top. Which I know that America didn't do that exactly, but you basically did. Whereas the UK, I feel... No, I'm not saying that our politicians are not corrupt because... but I feel like there's less, I want to say bribery, but what's the actual word? Lobbying. It's generally recommended that milk fit for human consumption should be first pasteurized and heated to kill off the less welcome ingredients such as salmonella and E. coli. But West Virginia doesn't have time for all of that nonsense. In 2016, Governor Earl Ray Tomblin signed a new bill which made it illegal to consume raw milk. Made it legal, to consume raw milk. Okie dokie. The only thing I know about West Virginia is, what's that? How's it go? West Virginia, ba-da-ba. Ba-da-ba. It's not right as it is at all, but there's a song about West Virginia. Right? Or is that Louisiana? But there's no West Louisiana. No, it's Virginia. West Virginia! Is West Virginia a bit yee-haw? It sounds like it could be. You still couldn't legally sell or distribute the stuff, and before you could even drink it, you had to buy shares in a cow and sign an official document which basically acknowledged that it might kill you, but you were mighty fine with that. The lawmakers still considered this to be a legislative victory for common sense, and during the celebrations in the east wing of the Capitol, State Representative Scott Cadle brought in 2 gallons of raw milk that he'd acquired from the black market, well, more likely a cow, and offered a cup to anyone he passed in the corridors of power who had supported the bill. Please tell me they all get poisoned. I mean, I don't want them to get poisoned and die, but just a little bit of getting their brains out would be, that'd be pretty good, wouldn't it? It'd be nice. Now, this was in itself a bit naughty. Even though the bill had been passed, the law wouldn't come into effect for another 90 days, so it was still illegal to consume it under any circumstances. Even 90 days later, it would still have been illegal for Scott Cadle to distribute it and for anyone to drink it without jumping through the legal hoops. But Scott Cadle completely got away with it on the grounds that laws only apply to peasants. Goddamn right! Hot diggity damn. Official reason, it was his first offense. Nah, I'm going with a peasant thing. However, many of the recipients couldn't escape the side effects of drinking raw milk. The east wing of the capital was suddenly awash with vomiting politicians. Brilliant. Many of whom mysteriously called in sick the next day. Delegate Pat McGeehan attempted to participate in a television interview shortly after taking a swig of the milk, but was forced to spend the interview lying down on the sofa and moaning feebly about stomach cramps. And over to you, Pat. Yes, they wouldn't admit it was down to the milk. Pat McGeehan claimed there was some kind of stomach bug going around the capital, and it was perfectly natural for representatives to spend their working day clutching their stomachs and dashing to the toilet every 5 minutes. An investigation by the Department of Health and Human Resources proved inconclusive, as only 3 of the sick delegates had admitted to drinking the raw milk. But you'd have to bear in mind that they would technically have been admitting to a crime. Don't do that. Never admit to your crimes. We know that. I've got a show called The Casual Criminalist that comes up all the time. The only thing worse would be writing it down. And the delegates were strangely uncooperative with the investigation, ignoring the requests for completed surveys and stool samples. You're gonna have to subpoena me before you get a sniff of my shit. The milk itself couldn't be tested, as Scott Cadle had swiftly flushed the remainder of his stash down the bog. Great work all round, guys. Let's pause to reflect again on this legislative victory for common sense. You clowns. West Virginia. Yeehaw. Don't fuck with squirrels. I didn't realize for a long time that squirrels are considered by many to be pests. They are? They're so nice. Oh no, squirrels. Shortly after moving to Cornwall for the first time and visiting my new local pub, I was unfortunate enough to find a seat at the bar right next to a grumpy old git whom I'd later refer to as the Cornish nasty, because we have something called a Cornish pasty, and pasty is written very much like nasty, even though they sound very different. Because you can't say pasty. You can, but it makes you sound very posh. A Cornish pasty. You sound like a cock. He hated tourists. He hated outsiders moving to Cornwall. He hated me. But more than anything, he hated bloody squirrels. He started talking about how he'd spent the afternoon setting traps for squirrels in his garden, and I bravely interjected to make a comment about how I thought it was a bit cruel, as I thought squirrels were quite cute creatures. The Cornish nasty went ballistic. He spent the next 5 minutes pacing up and down and screaming in my face. They're wankers! All squirrels are wankers!
Daddy, chill.
I swiftly finished my pint and tried my luck in the pub at the other end of the village. If there's a dude screaming about wanking squirrels in your pub, make a swift exit. But many would agree with him. Squirrels can spread disease to humans, chew their way through the wooden beams of your attic, gnaw on the protective coverings of your wires and cables, and can potentially even cause house fires. What, they smoking inside? Danny, they're squirrels. City of Chicago Alderman Howard Brookins Jr. had his own reasons for declaring war on squirrels in 2016. The residents of Chicago were repeatedly demanding new garbage carts because the pesky squirrels were chewing through the lids and completely destroying them. Howard had a point too. The 5-year study concluded that 37% of Chicago garbage cans had been damaged by rodents at some point, and it was costing the city thousands of dollars to replace them. I've got an idea. Just use metal ones. It's not that big brain, is it? Or like some sort of hardened plastic that squirrels can't chew through. It'll also last longer. Think ahead. Come on, it's not that difficult. Use your big brains, politicians, if you have them. Not always so sure. Some residents even complained that the replacement carts only lasted a couple of days before those wanker squirrels got at them again. Howard felt that enough was enough. He delivered an impassioned speech to the city council which urged immediate action on the aggressive squirrels, but somebody should have warned him that you don't muck about with squirrels. When they got wind of this speech, they clearly wanted the alderman pushed out of the picture. Just a few weeks after delivering his plea for action, Howard was taking a jaunty bike ride along the Cowsag Trail. This is a terribly named trail. When a kamikaze squirrel launched itself directly at the spokes of one of his wheels, the squirrel didn't come out of it too great as he got tangled up in the turning wheel. But I presume he was happy to get mangled to bits for the greater cause. Oh my god. But Howard didn't come out of it too great either. He was flipped right over the handlebars. He spent several days in hospital where he had to receive treatment for a fractured skull, a broken nose, and 6 missing teeth. Howard, you should run on a platform of wearing a helmet, mate.
'Tis but a scratch.
A scratch?
Just a flesh wound.
He later claimed that it was the closest shave with death that he'd ever experienced, but Howard seemed refreshingly good-humoured about the whole ordeal. He later joked to the press, "I can think of no other reason for this squirrel's actions. It was a suicide bomber getting revenge." And while Howard continued to tackle the expensive problem of replacement garbage carts, he later changed his focus to the concept of investing in stronger squirrel-proof carts. Incidentally, it's been a few years since I've had the misfortune of bumping into the Cornish nasty. I'm not sure what exactly happened to him, but I have my quiet suspicions. Was he assassinated by the squirrels, Danny? He was, wasn't he? In some sort of terrible bike accident. Jesus, that squirrel must have been mashed, man. Jesus. Florida woman's decision backfires. Jamie Gilt from Jacksonville, Florida, wants you to know that she likes guns. She ran the Facebook page Jamie Gilt for Gun Sense, which was apparently, quote, a place to connect to people that share a common goal. That goal is to protect and expand our Second Amendment rights. Can you expand something like that? Isn't it an amendment? It's like, there's no negotiating. It's an amendment. You get to bear arms. Expand it to what? Like machine guns and No one wants that. I guess some people do, but that's crazy. I get it. I'm fine with guns. I think like a country being able to have guns. I know I'm British. We don't have guns, but I think it's fine. Okay, go for it. Like some countries pull it off successfully, not America. But like, people don't want machine guns and or like rocket launchers, do they? That's not a thing. No one's lobbying for that. Even the NRA, they're not like, we need to get those machine guns, boys. In reality, she spent most of her time posting quite disturbing memes, which often ran along the lines of, my right to protect my child trumps your fear of my gun. Or perhaps a picture of an innocent child proclaiming, my parents are my armed bodyguards. Please let them do their jobs. Jamie had a child. Wait, is that sort of saying like encouraging violence? Let them do their jobs. Just let them. Jamie had a child, you see, and she firmly believed that she has a fundamental right to shoot anybody who might pose a threat to his safety. And even though her son was only 4 years old, she was keen to teach him gun sense from a young age. One evening in 2016, she posted a message which revealed how her little son always get really jacked up before shooting practice. I've got a kid who's like nearly 3. Shooting practice? I've only just realised that all sorts of incidents covered in this script took place in 2016. It must have been a year for bad decisions. Maybe they were putting something funny in the raw milk. Anyway, just one day after revealing how her son gets jacked up before shooting practice, Jamie Gilt realised that the whole family gun sense still needed a little work. Jamie was travelling in a truck with her son in the back seat, notably not strapped into the booster seat. Also of note was the loaded firearm just lying on the back seat right next to her son. Yeah, people who don't wear seatbelts, I don't get it. I think we've brought this up before, but it's like, what the f*** are you up to? Put your seatbelt on. You stupid? It's like, I don't like it. It's uncomfortable. It's like, put the seatbelt on, you clown.
Put y'all seatbelts on. Psh, YOLO.
I mean, unless you're like riding in the car alone, then I'm kind of like, okay, but make it a really bad crash because I don't want to waste like, oh, wait, in America, your tax money doesn't pay for healthcare. But here, I'm like, well, don't put the seatbelt on because I don't want you to get really up and cost the health service a lot of money. But like, make it a really bad crash. Or none, or wear a seatbelt. Or, and if there's someone else in the car, you have to wear. I remember I was once going somewhere and I was like, there were me and 3 mates in the car. And I was like backing out and I was like looking behind me, you know, as you do when you reverse. And I was like, mate, why is your seatbelt on? And he's like, oh, we're just going 5 minutes down the road. And I'm like, put your phone seatbelt on. He's like, I don't want to. And I'm like, okay, well then get the out. You can walk. And he put his seatbelt on. But like, man, like, it's not just you. You're like 80 kilograms. If we have a crash, that's 80 kilograms rolling around in the car, f***ing other people up. And you, but that's your call. But it's not my call. F*** you, put your seatbelt on.
Always buckle up.
After the little kid got bored of playing I Spy, he turned his attention to the loaded .45 semi-automatic handgun within easy reach and pointed it at the back of his mum's seat. The subsequent rounds of bullets passed right through the seat into the back of his mother's body. Don't panic, Jamie survived to tell the tale after undergoing extensive hospital treatment. When questioned by a child protection worker, the little boy's version of events didn't entirely ring true. He reckons there were dinosaurs in the back seat and it had actually been a Tyrannosaurus Rex that had pulled the trigger. With a little help from a velociraptor, Jamie was expected to face charges of criminal negligence for leaving an unattended loaded firearm next to her young child, and she could have copped for 180 days in prison. Honestly, yeah, as she should. You're leaving a gun within arm's reach of a f***ing toddler. Are you f***ing mental? F*** you. It wouldn't have been her first flirtation with the law either. Just 3 years earlier, the gun rights activist was caught stealing around $455 worth of clothes from a local Dillard's department store while using her baby stroller as a sneaky cover. I heard the other day that people use fake pregnancy bellies to shoplift. So they'll be walking around and just like sliding into this fake pregnancy belly, and then obviously no one can ask about your fake pregnancy belly because it could be not a fake pregnancy belly. Or if you're a dude, you could just be pretending to be fat. No one's going to ask. Don't get any ideas. The mother and young son were really Jacksonville's most notorious criminal duo. On that occasion, the charges were dropped after she successfully completed a pre-trial intervention program. And while the later decision to leave her gun next to a kid may have quite literally backfired for Jamie, savage Danny, but deserved, she kind of got away with that too, aside from the fresh holes in her back. The charges were again dropped against her after she agreed to install a gun holster in her truck. Jesus, Jamie, you've got good lawyers. Jamie certainly didn't fall out of love with guns. Shortly after returning from hospital, she defiantly announced on her Facebook page that the incident had inspired her to train to become an NRA-sanctioned gun safety instructor. You should not be allowed to do this. No, you should not do this, Jamie. This should not be okay. I know the NRA is allegedly mental, but Jesus Christ. I usually try to wrap up on a joke, but I think Jamie Gilt beat me to the punchline today. Savage. Thank you for watching. I don't wish death on anybody, I think.